Hello, Garland, Nixon here, hanging out with Dr. Jim Kavanaugh, and we're going to talk about Ukraine and the absolute political and moral catastrophe that is Gaza. Let's talk. Hello there, everyone. We're hanging out with Dr. Jim Kavanaugh on a Saturday evening, and we have two. These are the big two topics for the world, obviously, for the world, the big two topics. And we're going to start with Ukraine, and then, of course, we're going to finish with, but it doesn't matter. Both of them are big. Ukraine is could be a nuclear war that ends it all, and of course, meanwhile, we've got a moral catastrophe going on in Gaza that's unthinkable. That has the political system in the U.S. unraveling, and just a complete genocide is going on. So anyway, let's get started with Ukraine, Jim. So here's where we start off with. Trump is sending his feelings are hurt. This is the narcissist. Oh, well, Medvedev said something to me that I don't like, so 2 nuclear subs. It wouldn't surprise me, to most likely, based on what I've seen, if no nuclear subs were sent. In the same way that Trump wrote a note before that said, take all the troops, you remember this, all the troops out of Syria and Iraq, and they ignored them. And also, and this is important, and also, they were lying to him about the number of troops that were in Syria, Iraq. So, and the bottom line is this: to some extent, the system ignores him. So he said, send a couple. My guess is that they didn't, but it doesn't matter because this is nuclear brinksmanship, and a couple of subs, closer or not closer to Russia, are irrelevant in a nuclear if that kind of a nuclear conflict happens. But your thought on the state of this Ukraine madness? Oh, January 5th or whatever the heck, 8th, I don't know. Oh boy, we're going to let them have it. I don't even know what to say. He's painted himself into this corner.
Yeah. Well, this does away with any fiction that anybody had that Trump was going to solve this problem in 24 hours or 24 days or 24 months. His notion was always, because I'm such a powerful guy and I'm going to go in and Putin respects me so much and I'll show him tough I am and that'll take care of it. This is just nonsense. And people think there's some other 5D chess going on with Trump. There's nothing else going on. He doesn't understand. He thinks the United States is all powerful, and he thinks he's all powerful. And he's really very weak. He gets pushed around. He doesn't have enough intellectual grounding for himself, and therefore he's pushed around by people around him who have intellectual programs and political programs, real programs, and want to do it. And that's the neocons in this case. And it's just a disaster. As you say, this, he got into a little, it's like high school. Medvedev said something nasty to him. So he said something back to nasty to Medvedev. And now because Medvedev said something nasty in a tweet, he's going to send nuclear submarines closer to Russia. What difference does it make? They're nuclear submarines with intercontinental ballistic missiles. They don't have to be close to Russia. They're on patrol all the time. Those missiles are always aimed at Russia. The Russians know it. They're not scared by this. Nobody's intimidated by this. And as you say, it's probably not happening. They have patrols that they do that are scheduled. They know what to do. They're not getting any closer to blowing up, to launching by being closer to Russia. These are intercontinental ballistic missiles that can be fired from anywhere practically in the world. So it doesn't make any, it's nonsense. But what it is you're seeing the absolute, stupidity and hollow insecurity. And he doesn't really know what he's doing, but he is going to be faced. He's now realizing the Russians aren't intimidated or charmed by him. Putin isn't. Nobody is. They have their program. They're doing it methodically. They have objectives that same objectives they've always had. Putin stated it in June of 2024. These are our final objectives. Putin hasn't changed a bit on that. And Trump thinks he's going to charm him or intimidate him into change. He's not going to. So at some point, I mean, they're still putting out ridiculous, the Russians have lost, 70,000 soldiers. The Ukrainians only lost 30,000. They're putting out ridiculous casualty figures. They're still convincing themselves it's a stalemate. The Russians are losing so many soldiers they can't go on at some point. Meanwhile, the Russians are arming themselves with more weapons, more powerful drones, more the Orezhnik missiles are now in serial production and being deployed. And at some point, when Pokrovsk falls, which is happening right now, when it's going to become impossible even for people like Kellogg and the neocons around Trump, and for Trump himself not to realize we are actually losing. And this is the problem. That's why, for 6 months, few months while Trump was in power, first came in, it was like, maybe he'll say this was Joe Biden's war, I'm getting out of it. But he didn't. He got himself now into a fight with Putin and Medvedev, which is stupid. But anyway, he got himself into this kind of schoolboy fight with Putin, and he's going to have to either back down and admit defeat and accept defeat or not. And this is very dangerous. I don't know what Trump is going to do. The neocons, the Europeans, they don't want to accept defeat. And the only option they have is tactical nuclear weapons. That's the only option. They're going to be defeated. I wrote an article, I don't know, a year and a half ago now, will there be a nuclear war, saying because this is a situation in which for either side, it's an existential defeat, a serious existential defeat. The Russians cannot allow themselves to be defeated. And NATO and the collective West, Marco Rubio said it, this is a proxy war with the West and with the United States and NATO. This is a war between Russia and the collective West, NATO, led by the United States. One or the other of those is going to be facing clear and unavoidable and undeniable defeat. And that's not Russia. Russia is not going to lose the conventional war. It's winning. And it's the point where the defeat is imminent. Kiev is about to collapse. The government in Kiev, the West, neither side of that conflict is going to accept defeat without using every weapon at its disposal. I don't think, I said then, tell me there's less than a 50-50 chance that NATO and the West will not use tactical nuclear weapons, will not persuade themselves, we can just get away with this a little bit on the battlefield. That won't really cause, rather than say, okay, we give up, we accept defeat, capitulation. That's what it is. So I'm not at all sure. I said then, chances are no better than 50-50. And I'll say it again. We're facing, although, it's not these nuclear submarine things. It's what's going to happen on a battlefield and what's going to happen in Kiev when the government collapses and when the army collapses and capitulates the way the Japanese army did after the Soviet Union destroyed them in Manchuria. And the way the Nazi army did. So we have to wait and see what's going to happen. But nobody knows what Trump's going to do, including Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing about this, this is going to be one of those, I think, particularly because of the way the Russians fight, right? What they do is this, they've even said, sometimes taking land is a necessary evil, right? Because their plan is, I'm going to destroy your army. I'm going to destroy your army. Whether we take the land, not, we're going to continue to chip away and destroy your army. And I think one of the things I think, Jim, and we're starting to already see it, as the military system becomes unstable in Ukraine, the political system's coming unstable. And this business about, what's his name, Zelensky going after the Nabu and Saba, whatever it was. These are very clearly Western NGO style organizations. And as long as Zelensky was fooling around, doing different things, whatever, they could care less. But when he started going after the Western NGOs, in other words, saying, I want a little bit of independence from the West. I want to really control this country. I want to really be a dictator here. The West was like, whoa, no. You can't do that. They started leaking stuff about perhaps he'll be taken out. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. I think he's more likely to be taken out from inside than anything else. And even this Zelensky business, he's a Banderite. If they put Zelensky in, it would be, we know, but this is why they would put Zelensky in. Number one, they know the Russians are not going to negotiate with a Banderite. That's denazification. And so it would be, let's put Zelensky in, and that way it'll even more solidify the position. There's no negotiation.
Well, yeah, look, I don't know what's going on with Zelensky. And of course, these NAFTA. Ukraine is a ward state of the United States. The United States pays all of its bills, its pensions, its government salaries. When in 2014, after the Maidan insurrection and after the country was, the elected government was toppled, the Americans came in and they've been running the country from the American embassy. They brought in a woman who had never been in Ukraine. They had to give her citizenship. The Rada had to give her citizenship to become the finance minister, to run the country. They take their orders from the United States. The American generals ran the war from Wiesbaden. We saw that, day by day. They got all their, depend entirely on exogenous support, external support from the European countries and the United States, which built up a NATO army in Ukraine for 8 years. And since 2022, that NATO army has been steadily demolished and destroyed. And as you say, this is like, the United States faces the same kind of situation they faced with Ngo Diem in Vietnam. Can they get rid of him because he's corrupt and he may be? But once they get rid of him, that just demonstrates to everybody that the place is corrupt. It's controlled out. It's controlled by the Americans, and the political situation, as you say, is deteriorating quickly, and more quickly than anybody thought. So it's not going to help anything. It's just going to accelerate the demolishment of the country politically and militarily. And as you say, it's fun. It's been an amazing thing for me to watch this unfolding of this war, which you now can see on a day-to-day, just amazing. You see daily fights with the drone, in day by day, street by street, and the tactics and the strategy, and you see what it means for, as you say, the Russian strategy is we're going to defeat the military, we're going to grind down and attrit the army, and really, again, this is what happened in people don't realize this. When the Americans dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, the Japanese didn't really care what was happening to the cities. I mean, I'm saying they don't care, but Tokyo had been firebombed. That was it. The cities of Japan were being destroyed anyway. This was just another big bomb. But after the Soviet Union entered the war, and this was used to, the Naval Warfare Center used to write this, after the atomic bomb, really, the Japanese what made the Japanese surrender immediately was when the Soviet Union, because the major Japanese army was in Manchuria. When the Soviets entered the war, they destroyed that army in days, and the Japanese army was gone. So nobody was in Japan. There were no American troops, no Soviet troops in Japan. Just like you say, no, the Russians don't even occupy every bit of. They don't have to have. Once they destroy the army. Once the Soviets destroyed the Japanese army, the Japan then knew if the Soviet Union comes in here, the emperor system is over. And the Americans then said, "Oh, we had said unconditional surrender, but wait a minute, we'll accept the condition that we maintain the emperor system because we don't want the Soviet Union coming into this." So this is what's going to happen. At a certain point, the Ukrainian army is going to be destroyed, and it's going to be clear there's nothing that can stop the Russian army from coming into Kiev or whatever. And at that point, I don't know what's going to happen because, as you say, the alternative here, there's no political structure in Ukraine except for this confected American Western puppet, which is Zelensky and the Banderites, who are fascists, who want a war between Russia and the Soviet and the United States. That's what they've wanted all along. They've always known we cannot win. The purpose of this is to get the United States into this war and the West and NATO and to fight Russia on behalf of not Ukraine, but on behalf of the fascist agenda. And that's what they want. And so I don't know what's going to happen if Zelensky is set aside and taken out, whether it's by assassination or he flies off to Miami or to Switzerland or to Geneva or wherever, the south of France, it's going to be clear to everybody this war is over. And in Ukraine, it's bad enough, the situation in Ukraine. There aren't enough troops. The troops' morale is going down quickly. It's going to drop like a stone. And the Russian army will start, look at what's happening in Bekrovsk. They're going to win this city within a few weeks, if at most, right? And that used to take months and months and months. And that's a big city. And once that happens, it's going to be clear they can do this all along. So it's going to be the defeat of the army and the associated, as you say, political defeat, which is clear that they can't hold together the political structure, that whatever political structure there is in Kiev, which is this simulacrum of a government that's really the American government, the United States running the country, and the Banderites together. And that's going to break up in some way. It's going to be a disaster.
What's interesting is some of the things that Trump has been saying. You read Trump and what he said. So Trump basically said, oh, yeah, 10 days, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put sanctions on. And he said, and he gave himself away. He said, but the Russians don't really care. And, they found a way around sanctions. What Trump was really saying was this. In 10 days, I'm going to put sanctions on Russia. But I know that it's a waste of time. He said that, well, the Russians don't really care. And they've become really good at finding their way around sanctions. He admitted what he's really saying is this. I don't want to do this. I'm painted into a corner. I know it's a waste of time, but I'm getting so much heat from all of these senators who are saying, we got to do this, we got to do that. And there's another thing. So now the Senate's coming together. We've got to give $55 billion to, so now Trump, who said, oh, my God, Zelensky's a con man. Biden's giving him all this money. This is stupid. And he was right. Well, he wasn't right that this was the con man, but he was right in saying we shouldn't be spending all of this money. It should be spent here. They pushed him into a corner when MAGA's pissed about a lot of things. And now they're saying we got to have $55 billion. And here's the truth of that matter. What they're saying is Ukraine aid. Most of that money ain't even going for weapons because they ain't got them anyway. They actually, as you said, they pay every street sweeper, every policeman, every fireman. They pay the pensions. They buy every Ukraine is bankrupt. And now they're saying we have to have money because in a couple months, the people ain't going to get their pension. What are we going to do then? They're in the streets now. This thing's falling apart. So now Trump is being pushed into a corner where that $55 billion, if MAGA is not mad enough, so he's losing any grip that he had on his base is just drifted away. And the other thing that he said, we're going to get to this. Recently, apparently, it's been reported that he said to one of his donors, well, my people hate Israel now.
Yeah.
So I think he at least has an intuitive connection enough to his base to know he's losing them. But there's nothing he can do about it because there's nothing he can do because he don't work for them. That was all a fraud.
Yeah. Well, that's becoming clear. I hope it's becoming clear it is becoming clear to at least some of the MAGA base. There is an element of the MAGA base that's a cult of personality. You see how dangerous and how kind of senseless the cult of personality is. This guy, and again, the Democrats built him up into this strong, dangerous character they just didn't let him say what he was going to do because he has nothing to say. They turned him into a martyr who was under the object of a witch hunt. It was true. It was totally fake. This Russiagate baloney, and everything about it. They changed laws to try and put him in prison for 90 years for stuff that everybody does, and that made him an anti-establishment hero that he isn't. He's just he's an entitled rich man who has certain kind of, ability to talk in a way that sounds like, oh, I'm telling it like it is, which is just baloney. He's telling it what he's thinking, which is half, he's just uninformed. He's a completely uninformed person. He's not interested in being, he thinks he's the one, his personal charm or charisma or strength, because he thinks he's strong, is going to win the day. And it's just not. So there's the level, the portion of the MAGA base, which is just, allied to him as a cult of personality in a way that some people were allied to Obama because, a lot of people say, oh, he's a young black man. He's so smart. This guy's going to save us. Obama's, he's for us. He's a real telling it like it is guy and blah, blah. This is just baloney. And this is going to, but the other people, the many, many people who were fooled by the Democrats telling them this guy's anti-establishment. He's going to take us out of Ukraine. He's going to undermine the whole Western order, and he's going to change everything. They said, no, he's not. He's doing everything that, all the promises that he made about Ukraine, about Epstein, about I'm not going to cut social security or Medicare. I'm going to cut, but they're going to see the effects on their taxes, on their health insurance bills, on their, on the Medicaid, which is 50 million people in the United States, and they're working class people in red states. This is a disaster. So, and he doesn't even understand it. And unless people, I said that. Well, I'm saying all the time now. We said it about the Democrats. I say to my Democrat friends, don't sit here and tell me, you argued with me until the last day. Joe Biden, he's not really non-compos mentis. He's just got a cold, and he slept badly. This went on for years. You were told, it was obvious that Joe Biden was a fool and was incompetent. It was obvious. And what you have to do now is not say, I didn't know, but now I recognize. No, what you have to do now is say to yourself, why did I allow myself to be fooled about something that was so obvious that people told me and that not only did I not believe it, but I attacked anybody who said it. You have to come to grips with what you went through, why you went along with that crap. And I say to the MAGA base now, you have to come to grips with this. It was always clear that Donald Trump was a fool, that he wasn't really going to do these things. You can't believe he's going to solve the Ukraine war in one day. It was always clear that he didn't understand, that he was a narcissist and he was insecure. And if you didn't see that, it's not because nobody told you. You have to come to grips with the fact that you were fooled and you had a mindset that allowed you to be fooled. Do you think that the Democrats really think that Donald Trump was set up by Russia and recruited by? None of them thought that. Clapper and Brennan and not Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they didn't believe that. They didn't not know that Joe Biden was out of it. They knew that. They fooled you. That was what we're doing. And Trump and the people around him, close to him, know that he's a fool. He's incompetent in another kind of way. And they've been fooling you about that for years. And I tell you, I say the Democrats help him by saying this is such a powerful, strong guy. We got to be afraid of him. Because they never let him say what he's going to say. Now you see what he's doing. It was kind of clear to a lot of us of that. And, you got to take it, to yourself, as the Democrats should be doing, those Democrats constituents, what was it in me that allowed myself to be fooled by this and to think this was a solution to something? It's not. Donald Trump is a solution to nothing. And that really wasn't hard to see. So we all have to recognize the fools we've been and not, now I recognize it. So let's just forget about the fact that I didn't recognize it. No, you have to take account for yourself, not for my purpose, not apologizing to anybody, but you went along with this. And where's it get you? And where are we going from here? Who's the next Obama or the next Donald Trump? This is what we're in for unless we start taking account of all this crap and the game that these people are playing with us.
Let me go one further on this. There's something else we got to come to grips with that's even bigger. Look, the key was there when Biden was, wandering around soiling himself in front of the Pope and things of that nature, right? And it was, I saw, did you see that video where they were like at a church or something and people were clapping and they were all clapping and everybody was clapping and Biden was like this. His mouth, and he's going, and then he give some little speech where he forget everybody's name and couldn't remember Obama's name, anything, get his wife's name mixed up with somebody else. And then
his wife mixed up with his sister.
Yeah, and then at the end, he tried to shake hands with the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
He gave him, okay, here's my point. He wasn't in charge of a damn thing. It's obvious that this guy wasn't in charge of anything, right? Okay. What do we learn about the system? When Donald Trump comes in, he ain't in charge of a damn thing. There's can he do some things, some tariffs or stuff like that? But if the system didn't want him to do it, they kill him or throw him out, right? But when he said, "Oh, I'm going to do this, that, in Ukraine," he doesn't have the authority to do that. He don't have the authority to do that. What the people who were pointing out that Biden's mind is Swiss cheese were really saying is Biden ain't in charge of a damn thing. But then how do you think Trump's in charge when he gets? Either the president is in charge or he ain't. Number one. And number two, the people who are in charge, and this is the key, don't represent the working class. They represent the ruling elite. So you thought whoever came in, we voted Trump in. If you voted anybody in, yeah, well, they put a puppet in front of there for you to choose which puppet you want, right? But you think you're going to vote somebody in, and that person is going to represent your needs, your wants, your wishes, your life. And what they hopefully have learned, I'm not sure that they have, is whoever goes in, Trump said, "I'm here for you." But now you're like, "Hey, we don't like what's going on in Gaza." Too bad. He goes and talks to his donors and says, "Hey, guys, hey, people that I really work for, the schmucks down here are pissed at you." That's what he did. When he said to one of his donors, "Hey, they're mad at Israel." He didn't say, "I'm going to do something different because they're mad at Israel. I'm going to change the policy for mad at Israel." He was instructing his masters, his donors, his funders. "Hey, man, you put me in a bad spot. I don't work for you, and I got to do what you tell me. But the people that we're all trying to fool that I'm working for them, they're kind of getting on to us, and they're not happy." And, of course, his funders are going to say, "Well, who gives a shit?" But you know what I mean? That's the other part that MAGA has to learn, that people like us know. He doesn't work for you. And if you vote in, if Peter Thiel's boy comes in, he don't work for you.
Yeah. Well, look, I had that famous quote, one of my articles from 1970. The CEO of Avis had this great quote. The United States is run by about 10,000 people. And he listed the categories, Now you'd say, bankers and corporate heads, and you say tech bros and blah, 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 blah. And, there's a few hundred labor brokers, heads of major unions at that point. They're nothing now. But, you have certain different categories now. But really, they run the country. It's about 10,000 people. That's a good number. It's probably still just maybe 15,000 people in a country of 300 million people. They run the country. And that president is the head towel boy. It's a club, and they run the club, and he's one of the guys he's the head towel boy in the club. And now it's not untrue. I don't want to say that a president who really came in with an intellectual grounding, with a serious commitment to principles and to a political program, and with popular support that Donald Trump had, but if he had his own agenda that he really was committed to.
Oh, you just froze, Jim. Darn it. Jim, are you there? I think we're having
Donald.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, you froze. You said that he had his own agenda that he was committed to.
If the president came in with his own agenda that he was committed to intellectually and politically and ethically, and he could do something. But Joe Biden wasn't that. Joe Biden was a corrupt pal, and he was out of it by the time he became president. Now, Donald Trump isn't out of it in the same way Biden was, so he can make decisions. But you've seen, as I say, it wasn't hard to see. Donald Trump got up and told you, "Oh, I had the Jewish donors, the
AIPAC,
no,
Adelson.
Not Adelson's, Sheldon and his wife.
Sheldon Adelson. Yeah, and his wife.
Adelson. They were in the White House more than anybody else. I did. What do you want? What do you want me to do? I'll do it. In fact, I did it before they asked me to do it. And so he was standing up telling you that he's run by his donors and he does what they want. So what are you surprised at? This is, again, so, he's a guy who, and it's kind of obvious that he's very narcissistic and insecure. As you say, it was obvious what he did the first term when he said, "I'm going to get out of Syria." And they said, and they played him and they pushed him around and they said, "Oh, no, we'll stay there for the oil." "Oh, that's a good idea. We'll stay there for the oil." So he's someone who's weak. and who gets pushed around, and he's insecure and narcissistic, and he needs to be fed. The last person who gets to feed him his flattery is probably going to do what he wants. So this is the danger. But again, so we have to. But the parties and the system is set up in such a way that they promote to the top. They only allow to get into that position people who are weak enough to be pushed around by them, whether it's in the way that Biden is or in the way that Trump is. They want someone who's going to function as their head towel boy. And those are the people who are allowed to get through the process of qualification. That is the primary system. There are the producers of the show. The primary system are the auditions for the show, and they put them out there. But it's the same producers, so they don't want someone going forward who's strong enough to resist them and to do their own thing. And they've been able to manipulate that in that way for many, many decades. Okay, and that's the situation. So nobody gets through that qualification system, that filtering system, who hasn't already demonstrated they're willing to be the towel boy. So I don't know what to say about that, but this is a crisis of democracy. We don't have a democracy. As Jimmy Carter said, we have an oligarchy with unlimited bribery. That's what we have. And also probably unlimited blackmail, because that's the other thing. A lot of
that's the Epstein thing.
That whole, whatever Epstein is, there was a Franklin scandal before that, and they do have shit on these people. A lot of people, they only get through because they've been allowed to get through because we have stuff on them and we can control them. So there's a level of that we don't even understand the level of it, but we're in a very corrupt system and a very undemocratic system. And Donald Trump is not a champion of democracy or a tribune of the people. He's a swamp creature. He's a ruling class. So he doesn't have an agenda against the ruling class. Look what he's doing. He's there. He said to everyone else, you guys, I'm going to make you wealthier. I'm going to make you richer. He's not going to bring working class jobs back. He's not going to raise the minimum wage. He's not going to give you the social benefits you deserve, the pensions you deserve. He's going to cut it all. The health care you deserve. He's going to make his pals, the people he hangs around with, a lot of whom are Zionist New York real estate people, and therefore they're great people. I know those. I'm going to do what they want to do. Also, not because they're his people. They're people he hangs around with. They're rich people. Oh, I like Elon Musk because he got $500 billion. Well, he must be a great guy. This is the culture that he lives in. It's not your culture. It's nobody's culture. It's the culture of a tiny, tiny elite of the population that is working this country for itself. And
you know what they're
saying
to me?
You to go along with it. And Democrat, Republican, you're going along with it. You've been going along with it.
It seems to me, Jim, you know how they've been saying for years, we've got to run this country like a business, right?
Yeah.
We got to run this country like a business, like a corporation. Well, what do these people do? I used to work for a company that they came in and they ran it like a corporation. Vanguard, Apollo came in. Apollo was at that time, this was in 2015. Apollo had $180 billion in holdings, right? In company. They owned Berkshire Hathaway. They bought the company that I work for. They bought ADT. They bought all these other companies, right? But what do? Run it like a company? Absolutely. What do they do with companies? They buy a company. They go in there. They strip all the employees. They lay everybody off. They, if the company has any credit, if the company has $100 million in credit, they take $100 million loan out and then they split it amongst themselves as consultants, right? They strip it bare to the bones and then file bankruptcy. That's what they do to a corporation, right?
Yep.
And they're running the United States just like a corporation. They're stripping it bare to the bones. They're taking everything they can at it. But rest assured this, they're taking their money, they're moving it out. Another 55, they know the dollar's going to crash. And you know what they're doing? They're moving their money to the Cayman Islands, to wherever the hell. They're probably buying rubles and renminbi or whatever to get the hell out of these. And they're going to run Bitcoin up because they're going to put money in Bitcoin. Yeah. Trump's putting money in Bitcoin. You know what that tells you? They're going to go out of the dollar. They're going to put money in Bitcoin and run that through the roof. They know the dollar's on the way out. So they're stripping the U.S. And you know what? That $55 billion that they're asking for Ukraine, again, it's going to go to Ukraine. And Trump's going to sign off of it. You know why? Because that's who he works for, number one. And because most of it gets stolen.
Yep.
And they're going to take it out. They're going to say, oh, 55 billion in Ukraine, 5 billion for Ukraine, 50 billion for us to steal and move around the world. And everybody getting, Tony Blair gets his share. Everybody gets their fair share. And then and everybody keeps their mouth shut. And they're going on about their business. One of the reasons they keep this going, it's a money laundering operation. That's the other part of it going on here, is that behind the scenes, there's every single thing they touch is a giant money laundering operation.
Yeah, it's a grift. It's lining their pockets. That's what they want to do, and that's what they're doing. And there's a small group of people who benefit from this in enormous sums of money. And they pay. It's the best investment in the world. I pay $1 million to a politician. I get $1 billion back. That's 1,000 to 1. So that's Meanwhile, the politician got $1 billion from 10 people. That's not bad, 100 people.
Did you see that? Oh, did you see that story about Joe Biden after he lost in the last couple months? Right, they took like $330 billion and they spread it out. Did you read any of that story? They took like $300 billion and it went out to like NGOs and they just took like 300 billion. I mean, they just laundered it. They went to USAID, whatever, and they just bought contracts with this person. They took on the way out after they lost. They took $300 billion and laundered it.
Yeah. It went to organizations. It went to their favorite NGOs, and which are the people that they like, who got $300,000, $500,000 a year salaries, et cetera. They went to all that. Yeah, so this is and then Trump now is setting up in the most obvious way, all kinds of ways for him to make money. As you say, crypto, my own meme coins and all this baloney. And, I want you to buy my stuff if you buy things from my companies if you're going to do business with the United States. But this is all, and behind the scenes, of course, all the, Musk and Thiel, they're getting billions of dollars of government contracts. Anyway, it's an oligarchy with unlimited bribery, and they don't care. They don't care what your life is like, how bad you are. You can't afford the rent. You can't afford school. You can't afford to go to the doctor. They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn. Donald Trump does not give a damn about you. Barack Obama did not give a damn about you, except insofar as he needed to make you think he could give you enough so that you'd vote for him, just enough so that you'd vote for him. But really, Trump doesn't need that anymore. Obama doesn't need that anymore to say anything about anything. He's out in his third or fourth multi-million-dollar mansion, and he doesn't give a damn about anything. He got paid off, deferred by bribery. Trump is being paid off and will be paid off, and that's what they care about. That they don't give a damn about. They'll do what they think they need to do. They'll say what they think they need to say to get you to vote for them. And once you've done and they're in power, they don't give a damn about you. So unless everybody understands that, George Carlin, you have owners. They're your owners. That's the way they consider themselves. And you're the peasants. And they need to get you to, put down the pitchforks and, vote for them and come and put your thing in. But they really, it's just disgraceful what they're doing to kids and to, the healthcare system in this country is a goddamn disgrace. I saw there was who was the guy? Some guy went out there and went in for blood pressure for 12 hours in the emergency room. It was a $41,000 bill. That's just ridiculous. This is ridiculous, and this is not necessary. He didn't have to pay the bill. The insurance company paid most of it, but still, that's a crazy thing. That's nuts.
What if you don't have insurance?
And if you don't have insurance, and the idea of having health insurance tied to your job. And these Republicans go to say, it's not going to be so bad if we cut Medicaid. They should all be working for that. What is this nonsense? People get sick. They need to be taken care of. We have a country that can do that. Other countries in the world that are peer countries of ours or even lesser countries of ours take care of sick people. That's what you do. We have the ability to do that. There's no question about it. We have the ability. We have the money. There's no problem with it. They just don't want to do it because they want to protect their friends who are health insurance and pharmaceutical company billionaires who are making billions on your pain and suffering, and they want to keep that grift going.
Well, let's talk about a country that does have universal health care, free college, everything you could possibly dream of. And I put it like this: there's a flag here of two countries. One of them has universal health care. One of them has free college, free all kinds of stuff. And the other one can't have it because it's evil communism if you give people health care. All over the world they do, but here we can't because it's evil communism. We can't have evil communism, Jim. Yep. But, and oh, by the way, who's going to pay for it? You know who's going to pay for it? The people that are paying for it in Israel. Israel gets everything, all the things that we can't get here because it's communism, it's socialism, and we can't afford it for you. We can afford it for Israel. Unlimited money for Israel. Meanwhile, I got to look every day, go online and see children in diapers starving to death. Hundreds of people every day. I got to watch them drop bombs, a tent of refugees because their houses have been blown up. A tent city, they're all sitting there hoping for some food, which they don't have, hoping for some water, which they don't have, no electricity, no nothing, living in a tent city in the elements, and they drop a bomb and burn them alive. And then this guy, Tony Aguiar, who was interviewed by Tucker Carlson, I listened to this guy, and the guy's like, oh my God, it's I've never seen anything like it. They're just shooting people. They're mowing people down. When they're trying to direct people, no, go this way. Instead of saying, hey, make a right and go this way, they shoot at them to direct them which way to go. It's what I'm seeing in Israel, occupied Palestine, I'm going to call it, is the most evil, brutal, open thing that you could imagine in humanity. And I got to watch AOC and Bernie. They won't call Marjorie Taylor Greene will call it a genocide. AOC and Bernie won't.
Yeah. Look, this is horrible. It is the crime of the century. If you had said 25 months ago, this is what's going to happen, people would say, no, they'd never let that to happen. The world will never allow that to happen. This is what's happening. And it's happening before our eyes. It's the deliberate murder of children, the deliberate starvation of children, doctors going in to Gaza, and the Israelis take from the doctors personal, you can't bring infant formula in. They take it from them. The doctors go, why can't I bring infant formula in? That is deliberate starvation of children. That infant formula is going nowhere but feeding an infant. It's not going to Hamas. You can't make an excuse for refusing to allow infant formula in. There's no excuse. You are doing that because you want to kill children, infants. That is your decision. You're telling the world we are deciding deliberately to kill the infants of Gaza. And as you say, that Aguilar testimony was just horrific. And the kid comes up to him, thanks him in English, kisses his face for food that he had to pick up off the ground. It wasn't about the Aguilar said, this wasn't a meal that we gave him. He didn't come with a box with the meal. He came with some packets of food that had been fallen on the ground that picked up. And he came to us. He came to me, kissed my hand and took my face and kissed it and said, thank you in English, and then walked away. And because the Israelis have this policy, as you say, and he said, why don't you put a sign up there saying turn left? They go, no, we prefer to shoot at them. We'd shoot at the ground and over their heads. But of course, they hit half of them. We prepare to shoot at them to make them, like cattle to run the right way. He sees this same kid who just kissed him on the face and thanked him being shot by the Israelis. So this is horrible. This is a crime against humanity of the likes of which we have not seen since the Nazis. The Israelis or today's Nazis, there's no question about it. And the United States of America is part of it. They are part of the fascist axis with Israel. This has to do with the fact that the political and media and culture class in the United States has committed itself to Zionism from the moment that the Zionist donors came onto a train, Harry Truman's campaign train, with a paper bag with $1 million or $2 million in it, according to Ted Kennedy's or John Kennedy's brother-in-law, Stephen Smith, one of the Kennedy, with Kennedy family. That despite the fact that the State Department and the American Foreign Policy Establishment were telling Truman, you can't recognize this. This is bad. It's going to come back to haunt us. It contradicts everything we're saying about freedom and equality and liberty. And we're never going to live this. It's going to come back to haunt us. So from that moment till today, for 77 years, the political and cultural elite in the United States has been committed to the Zionist project above anything else. And that's a commitment and they think they were doing, convinced themselves it was the right thing to do. It was the virtuous thing to do. It makes me a good person that I want to defend the Zionist project, the Jewish supremacist state in Israel. And it never was. Bill Clinton, who was excoriated for avoiding the draft in Vietnam, gets up and says, I would take a gun and fight and die for Israel. And nobody says that's crazy. Nancy Pelosi says the Capitol burned down. We'll still be standing with Israel. And that's exactly what's happening. The country is going down because you're standing with Israel. You're standing with the Zionist project. It took what happened since October 7th for Americans to start saying, yeah, this whole Zionist enterprise is bullshit. It's racism, colonialism, vicious colonial slaughter of the highest order. It was in 1948. What you're seeing now is what they did in 1948 to expel and exterminate 80% of the Palestinian population in Green Line Israel. And the people who are in Gaza are people who were expelled from, most of them, 70% of them are families who were expelled then during that extermination and expulsion. And now they're doing it. They're continuing that project. And they want to put an end to it. They want to finish it by finishing off the Palestinians. And the American political and cultural elite has been completely entwined in that and committed to that and thinking it's a wonderful thing. Now, cannot anymore convince yourself this is a virtuous thing that I do by siding with these people. No, it's not. You're siding with Nazi fascism. And if you don't, and colonialism with the colonial order in Belgium with Leopoldian colonialism. This is what you're You're making the American support for that goes away. Israel goes away. That's the fact. And that's what has to happen. The American support, we have to push it, and not everybody should be ashamed of this. Now they're saying, many of them, the liberals are, Zionists saying, now I see it's genocide. No. It's just like I was saying before. It was obvious before. It always was, and it was obvious that it was. And we told you that it was. So if you're saying now I see it, you got to be able to be willing to say, how is it? Why is it that I couldn't acknowledge that before? And I have to change myself, what it is that prevented me from acknowledging that before. This always was genocide. Since 1948, it was ethnic cleansing, genocide, colonialist supremacism and violence, exterminationist policy, and that's what it always was, and that's what it is. Now we're going to turn against it, and that means you want the Zionist project to end. You want it to be defeated. I don't want none of this Bernie stuff. I just want the Netanyahu government to go away so we can have a nice. There are no liberal Zionists in Israel. They're all in the West. You're not the Israelis. No, they despise the Americans. They hold them in contempt. The only people they hold in more contempt than the Americans are the Palestinians. They hold American liberals in contempt because they think they're naive fools who think that there's going to be some justice and equality and two-state solution. And they know damn well, the Israelis know this damn well, it has nothing to do with what they want. They want out. They want to get rid of the Palestinians, and that's what they're doing. And they want to keep the foolish, the American Western liberals and Western liberals fooled into thinking, there's some way we're going to get Israel to be a liberal democratic state and a colonialist state at the same time. No, you're not. They know it. And they really, American Western liberals have to understand this. The Israelis think you're fools. And they're right. They've been fooling you for 77 years. They've been getting you to believe that there's some kind of liberal Zionism hidden behind this vicious facade of exterminating and expelling Palestinians. And there isn't. And they know it. And they know what their project is. And this is the point. Americans think they're being virtuous and good because, oh, the Jews had such a terrible time with the Holocaust. We got to now let them do anything they want. This is baloney. This is nonsense. It's easy, and it's easy to see. And now you're seeing how easy it is to see. And you could have seen that before because a lot of people were telling you about it, but you didn't want to see it. Now you see it. So I don't want any backsliding on this. I don't want any, oh, I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't want to know. And you got to come to grips with that about yourself and be sure that you're crossed the line and you're never coming back to this liberal Zionist baloney. There's no two-state solution. The Israelis don't want it. It's not going to help the Palestinians at all. We got to put an end to the Zionist project. And very easy for the United States to do. The United States of America can do that. We say, just like we said about South Africa, we do not support this. We are opposed to it. We are going to do everything we can to make sure that the the Zionist colonial project comes to an end. And we have a democratic secular state in which Jews and Arabs and Palestinian Arabs can live, and everybody can live together. It has nothing to do with Muslims or Jews. This is a single democratic polity. And that's the only thing. And we have to American people have to come to that. Everyone, MAGA, Democrats, liberals, there's no liberal Zionism. There's no. That's a fantasy of the Western liberals that the Zionists who know better are playing you with and have been playing with for 70 years and are contemptuous of you for the fact that you buy it.
I'll even say this. The idea, because they're like, okay, we're talking with the Israelis and we're negotiating with the government. You're negotiating with Ben-Gvir and Smotrich? Really? Yeah. You listen to these people. What are you going to do? Kill them all, starve them, murder them. We're trying to negotiate with these people. I put it like this, the same way that I was talking about some other issues yesterday, and I said, think about Jurassic Park. Great movie. The first one was a good movie, right? The first Jurassic Park was a good movie. And if you remember, there was these two Jeeps, or what they were, Mercedes Jeeps, whatever you call style, SUVs. And they got stopped next to this Tyrannosaurus paddock. And there's this big Tyrannosaurus, right? Well, eventually the Tyrannosaurus comes through and he attacks the first Jeep. He's rolling it over. He's trying to bite people. He's biting, he's kicking, he's stomping. He's doing everything he did. And then there's a guy in the bathroom. The top comes off the bathroom, bites the guy, chomps him up, swallows him. He's done, right? And he goes back, I'm going to try to eat these people in the Jeep because I'm a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's what I do. It's in the job description, right? Can you imagine? Jim, you and I are sitting in the Mercedes SUV behind there. We're like, holy shit, there's a Tyrannosaurus. He's on one Jeep. We're next. And I were to say to you, you know, Jim, I think maybe we should try to negotiate with this guy. You know, I think that if we get out of here and we walk up to him and we say, look, Mr. Tyrannosaurus Rex, I know you've eaten a lot of people and stuff like that, but perhaps we could sit down, we could draw up some kind of a agreement. You could sign it in that guy's blood that you just ate, and then perhaps we could both go our separate ways and everybody could live. You'd say, you're out of your mind. He's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He's going to eat you. As soon as you walk up there, he's going to bite you in half. You're trying to negotiate with Tyrannosaurus Rex, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's like to think that you can negotiate with Ben-Gvir and Smotrich and the Israelis. The idea that you can watch these barbaric savages rip people to pieces and starve children, and somebody's going to say to me, you know, Garland, I think we should negotiate with them for Tuesday. No, you can't negotiate with barbaric savages. At least the Tyrannosaurus Rex has an excuse. He's only eating you because he's hungry, and that's what he does. I can respect that. But these people, there's no negotiation. So I'm with you. No, there's no negotiating with them. Never try to negotiate with them. They don't give it. They're fascist. Fascists don't negotiate. The bandit in Ukraine, you ain't negotiating with them. They're like, so, hey, what's the problem? Well, we got some 70-year-olds and some women. Let's throw them to the front line and get them all killed. We got anybody left? You're not negotiating with. That's the key to both of these countries. And that is, you can't negotiate with barbaric savages and stop telling the American people, yeah, we're going to negotiate a deal. You're never going to negotiate a deal. Ever, ever. They want every Palestinian dead, and they could care less. They just want you to shut up and get out of their way.
Well, negotiation, you know, that can happen. But the point is what your understanding of the situation is. And you can negotiate terms of surrender. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
You can negotiate. That's what's going to happen. That's the only negotiation that's going to happen in Ukraine. And it's the only negotiation that's going to happen in Israel Palestine. And what the Israelis and the Americans are demanding of Hamas and the Palestinians is that they negotiate terms of surrender and capitulation. Okay, that's what they're demanding of them, and it's what the entire West is. Even those who are saying, "I recognize a Palestinian state, but you can't have an army, Hamas, no armed resistance, blah blah." That's asking them. That's asking them for capitulation and surrender. So one way or another, this is going to end in terms of in a surrender, in a defeat of one of the other parties. Okay, ultimately, I don't think Israel can last. But again, I don't believe really in inevitability, and that's a long term. That's a prospect, although it's maybe coming quicker, but I'm worried about how long the Palestinians in Gaza, especially, and the West Bank now, they're being put in concentration. They're going to be killed. I'm worried about how long the Palestinians can last. The Palestinians might go down before Israel goes down. That's what I'm worried about now. But what I'm saying is, what's important is that the American people understand what's been happening, which is that we as a polity have committed ourselves to the Zionist project through our political and cultural elite. And media elite and cultural elite, we have been unconditionally committed to the Zionist project. Give it anything it wants, any of our public, not taxpayer, public money, any of our weapons, anything. They'll get anything. We will undermine ourselves as a country and as a people in order to preserve the Zionist project. If you don't understand that has been the case, and it's been the case because the cultural and political elite of the United States have thought that's the right thing to do. That's a virtuous thing to do. We don't really think Israel is a colonialist, racist, master race, Nazi fascist state. We think it's the Upper West Side. This is not, and we'd rather have the Upper West Side than have some kind of crazy Islamic nonsense. This is nonsense. This is baloney. And you have to understand, first of all, that's what's been happening. That's been 70 years of that ideology that's been inculcated in the American mind in every way. And it's been broken over the past 2 years. And you have to break from it. You have to understand what you're breaking from. And you're breaking from the idea that it's a good thing that a Jewish supremacist state was set up in 1948 in Israel. It wasn't a good thing. It never was a good thing. It's colonialism, racism, master race baloney. And we have to oppose it. And we have to, as Americans, say, we want our country to oppose Zionism, not to figure out a way of getting rid of Netanyahu and maybe getting rid of Smotrich or not Smotrich. I mean, Netanyahu and Smotrich and Ben had to get up when they let a little bit of food in and apologize to the Israeli people. I know it's a bad thing that we're letting some food in, but we have to do that to keep the West off our back. The Israeli people don't want that. They're there to be the master race. And that's what under the Zionist project, that's what they're there for. And we have to oppose it the way we opposed apartheid, the way we came to oppose Jim Crow, the way we oppose slavery. This is as bad as that. And you have to realize that the whole 77 years of this is a wonderful thing. We have to support Israel. It's a great place. All these actors going every year to Friends of the IDF Ball, put on by Haim Saban, the Democratic donor, and Adelson, the Republican donor, and $150 million a night for Israeli soldiers, and Robert De Niro and Seal and going to congratulate Israel. This is baloney. You have to realize how bad that was. How bad it was to be fooled by Obama, how bad it was to be fooled by Trump, and how bad it was to be fooled by Zionism. And that's the worst of it all. That's worse ultimately than a particular person like Trump or Obama, but you have to realize how bad it was and break from it and go against it. We have to oppose Zionism. We are here as Americans to say the United States government has to take a position that opposes Zionism, and we're far from that politically, far from it. And clearly this government is 150% Zionist and is throwing people out of the country, making people going through people's social media, normal tourists who come into the country to see if they have anything pro-Zionist or pro-Palestinian. I mean, this is nonsense. So we're far from it. We may not be that far from it in time, but we're far from it. We have to be adamant about it. And there are more and more people on the right and the left, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Candace Owens and Tucker, who are saying, wait a minute, this is baloney. This does nothing for us. And the people on the left have to be adamant about this. Bernie Sanders, no. Bullshit. No two-state stuff. No, I don't want to say the word genocide because you say the word genocide about everything else. Bernie Sanders is supporting the Zionist project. That's what he doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to say there's something wrong with the Zionist project. There's only something wrong with Netanyahu's government. No, there's something wrong with the Zionist project. If you're not willing to say that and understand that, you're an enemy on this topic, on this issue, and on the worst crime against humanity of the century. You're an enemy on that. So that's what you have to. We have to start being really aggressive but clear with ourselves about that, about the fools we've been as a country, about the fools, about the villains that the people who run this country are for maintaining this. And they're not going to fool us anymore. And we have to make them pay for it. You shouldn't vote for anybody who's in favor of returning to slavery. You shouldn't vote for anybody who's in favor of Jim Crow, whether they have a good tax policy or a good health care policy. That's a kind of a deal breaker. You know, if you want to have return to Jim Crow, I'm not going to vote for you. You want to continue to support the Zionist project, I don't want to vote for you. That's something that's a deal breaker. That's Nazi fascist master race baloney. And committing the United States to be the guarantor of that militarily and financially and in every way? Absolutely not. If you're committed to that, get the hell out of my way. I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jim. I'm with you. And I've been saying this for a while. Man, I fear something, and that is that, I'll put it like this. I had someone who was once a friend who, a Jewish couple who were once a friend who I actually worked with on this organization that was a Middle East peace organization years ago, right? And so we're Facebook friends. And I look up the other day and they got this thing up on their page about October 7th and about the hostages have to come home. And I looked at it and I'm like, I just flew into a rage and I blocked them. I flew into a rage and I blocked them. And I just thought to myself, here's are people that I thought, these are nice people. These are good people, blah, 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 blah. But when I saw that and I'm like, this was my mindset. This is what came to Garland Nixon's mind. They ain't nice people. They ain't good people. You know what I mean? And I know them, and I knew their families, and they and this and that and all. And if you met them on the street and went to their home and had dinner, these are great. But it was in my mind, how do you justify? I'll put it to you like this: if I found out that like 5 black people kidnapped some white guy and starved him and beat him to death and murdered him and raped him or whatever, right? I wouldn't be like, hey, I wonder how the black guys are doing. Think about them. We better make sure. Let's donate to their defense fund, and we got to make sure they're okay because hey, they've been through a lot. I'd be like, just because they're my tribe or my group or something, I'm not going to be like, well, let's look out for these guys. They're like me. They committed a crime. I'm not going to support the crime just because somebody is like me or my group or my whatever, right? And I'm just like, I fear that at some point, the fallout from Zionism is going to visit itself upon regular old Jews. Many who are innocent, many who are pushing against this could end up facing some kind of problem, will likely end up facing some kind of problems, some issues, possibly even dangerous problems as a result of Zionism. That what it's doing to Judaism through the world is really, really bad. I look, I do this every day, it seems like. And I look in the comments and I see an anger towards Judaism in general. I mean, a fury that isn't just a Zionism that I didn't see before this. And it's rising and it's boiling. And as our economy crashes, which our neoliberal capitalists root to, they're gonna look for somebody to blame.
Yep.
They're gonna look for somebody to be mad at.
Yep. And
they're gonna find somebody, and they got a ready-made group. You know what I'm saying? I can see this thing going really, really bad. I got mad, and I'm a nice guy. I'm a black guy. I've been called the N-word. I've seen racist stuff in my life. I'm a person who's going to oppose racism. But I got furious and blocked them over this. And I had all kind of contradictory thoughts going on in my mind. And I'm a nice guy who opposes any kind of discrimination. Everybody ain't like that, Jim. This is going to be a bad and very dangerous situation. Nobody wants to talk about that, but that's a reality.
Yeah, the due dissidence guys have been very good about that. Keaton Weiss and Russell Dabula, who are both Jewish guys. And, this is, first of all, Israel is not a safe haven for Jews. This is the most dangerous place in the world for Jews.
The worst
but secondly, the push to identify Zionism with Judaism is terrible. If you are saying that to be a Jew necessitates supporting this kind of master race, colonialist, racist bullshit, then you are endangering Judaism because anybody who, it's like saying if I want to, being a white person, that's what the Afrikaners wanted to say. Being a white person, I have to support apartheid. Well, if I buy into that, if the white world as a whole, most white people in the world go along with that, then you got a problem. And a lot of people are going to start hating you because you're white. If you say, I have to support this because I'm white, then guess what? The people who are suffering from that oppression are going to say, I don't like you because you're white. And you better understand that. So if you tell me white people have to support apartheid, then I don't like white people. You know what I mean? That's what you're going to get. So this is really changing now. I just saw today, Zohran Mamdani is winning the Jewish vote in New York. Yes, among Jews below 45, 67%. Okay. Clear anti-Zionist position. The young Jews have understood. I was brought up thinking this was just a natural part of being Jewish. That's exactly what's wrong. And I thought, blah, blah, blah. And now I understand. This is not the Judaism that I want. This is something else. I'm not going to go along with this. So this is changing in the United States. And we have to be absolutely firm about that. No, anybody who tries to pass a law saying anti-Zionism is the same as anti-Semitism is a son of a bitch and should be excoriated. And we have to make it so that Zionism becomes a target of social shaming, the way racism is. The way you should be as ashamed of saying I'm a Zionist as you are of saying I'm a racist. I believe that white people are superior to black people, or the tall people are superior to short people. It's racism. It's master race theory, and if you're not, you should be made to feel ashamed of that. Nothing wrong with ideological dominant ideology that makes people uncomfortable saying things that are horrific. And being a Zionist is horrific. It's master race colonialism. And it's obvious. You can see it. There's no denying it anymore. There's nobody in Israel that's going to fix that. They don't want to fix it. This is not what's happening in Gaza. Is not an aberration from Zionism. It's the essence of Zionism. And that is what we have to understand, really grasp, be firm about it. Don't back off from it from a second. Don't let anybody call you an anti-Semite. Back off from it like saying, you're an anti-white racist if you oppose apartheid. That's nonsense. What are you talking about? That's just nonsense. Saying you're anti-Semitic because you oppose the Zionist project is nonsense. And it doesn't deserve a bit of even being taken seriously for a second.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. So, well, I think we have covered everything, Jim, and I think we have solved all the problems. At least we've clarified some things, this stuff, what the interesting thing is, this stuff, man, it elicits powerful emotions. And the emotion, like I said, the emotion I felt, I'm just going through Facebook, la, 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 la. And then I see this. Oh, yes, we freed the hostages, pray for the hostages that were taken on October 7th. I flew into a rage. Yeah. I don't fly into rages. I flew into a rage. I lost it. I went berserk. And then I just blocked them or something like that. I wrote something like, it's a bizarre Nazi cult or something like that, and I blocked them. And I was furious. It is eliciting emotions, and that's dangerous. But at any rate, Jim, tell everybody where they can find you online.
Please go to my Substack. Subscribe to my Substack, free, or I'd love it if you became paid subscriber. I'm on Twitter at @thepolemicist_. Always great to be with you, Garland. Have fun talking with you, and I wish we were solving everything. We're getting mad at the right things. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, I certainly. Look, you know what? I guess we're getting it out. And you know what? I like the chat. I love the chat. The chat is very important for this reason, because if you turn on the mainstream media, you just can watch it. Here, when we do this, people are in the chat. They're talking to each other, they're commenting, they're being part of it. So I think that is important. I think that's one of the reasons that social media is so important, because of the chat. And there are a lot of people, from what I've seen in the chat, they don't even know what the hell we're talking about. They're so busy in their own conversations. I think there's people that enjoy the chat more than anything else, that they just watch this for the chat. And you know what I say? Good, enjoy it. Maybe you can watch it later. Thanks a lot. All right, everybody, we're out.
Bye-bye.
All right, Jim.